These were our first few steps in Turkey. This airport reminded me of something from a Mission Impossible scene. I did my best to refrain from just shooting cat videos, so this is not going to be 20 minutes of cat footage. The hotel we stayed at the first few nights had really great breakfast buffets, and the food was really local, and it's also when I first learned that Turkish coffee doesn't have that much caffeine compared to coffee in the States. We found out that we need this kind of setup to charge. We only get one outlet that's normal, and then we need a mega outlet to charge things that are non-local. Otherwise, they look like that. Here's another example of a mega outlet. The first couple of days we were in Istanbul and we explored mostly on foot.
The cat.
We got to check out a few of the local spots. We got to experience what it's like to get a taxi there.
We're gonna get shit on. Yeah. Oh God, we're gonna get shit on. We're definitely gonna.
This day was kind of rainy. It wasn't unmanageable walking. You just needed an umbrella, a jacket, and somewhere to stay inside to wait out the super heavy rainy periods. This trip was early October, so yes, this is a few months late, but I really wanted to wait until I had time to put together the clips because I don't think my video can do this trip justice or this place justice. Rainy day. This is Topkapi Palace, and the funny thing about us going there is we didn't know that we would be going back the next day with our tour group. So we paid for admission, spent most of the day there because it was rainy and there was a good amount of indoor activities to do there, and then we found out we were going back the next day. This is what happens when we book a trip last minute and don't read the itinerary. Our self-guided tour was really fun, and as you can see, this museum was mega crowded. There were so many people. It was kind of hard to get a good look at exhibits, but we had lots of time here luckily, so we got to really take in the sights. After taking many steps in the rain, we made it to a really yummy lunch spot.
This is good. Oh my God. Interesting.
After a long day on foot, we headed back to the hotel and got ready for our first full tour group day. A tip for women is make sure you have a scarf with you when you're planning on visiting mosques, because you do have to cover your head, like you have to cover your hair. You need to wear long sleeve clothing, just clothing that shows respect, not revealing parts of your body. I asked the tour guide about the hair covering part because I did make the mistake of not bringing the scarf with me when we hopped off the bus because I didn't know that our first stop was going to be the mosque, and I had to use a loaner scarf that I'm sure they don't wash because it smelled like thousands of people had used it for years. This is part of the Turkish bathroom experience. This is not just for tourists. Anyone who wants to use a public restroom generally needs to have some change on them to pay. And this is outside of the Blue Mosque. We did not get to go inside because unfortunately it just didn't work out time-wise. After seeing these beautiful buildings there that look nothing like I've ever seen before, I started to develop more of a taste for architecture, as in I still don't know what I'm looking at, but I can appreciate the differences in buildings across the world.
In Nicaea, which is 70 miles from here.
This is the view from inside the Hagia Sophia, and you can hear our tour guide giving us a history lesson about this place. So this trip was basically a history boot camp, and I don't feel like I deserve to go on this Turkey trip because I think this is a place where people maybe have waited all their lives to go. They've already gone to Italy and Spain and Greece, and they've wanted to explore ancient civilizations or see things like artifacts from those civilizations. And I kind of signed up last minute with my mom to go on this trip, and I don't think either of us knew what we were in for, but it was amazing. The next morning, bright and early, we got on the bus leaving Istanbul, and along the way we got to stop and get some coffee and refresh ourselves and watch this lady roll out some dough, which then they baked or fried, and it was kind of tortilla-like but a little thicker. We made our way to the town of Gallipoli, and I apologize if I pronounce any of these places incorrectly. I'm doing my best. We visited the Anzac Cemetery, and we visited the Anzac Cove. From the Anzac Cove, we traveled by bus, and then we crossed the Dardanelles on a ferry with our bus also on the ferry, and made our way to Pamukkale. After the ferry ride, we had a little bit of a drive, and then we made it to our hotel for the evening. Part of this tour was staying at one city for 1 and maybe 2 nights in a row, so it was a lot of packing and being on the go. We got to see one of the few sunsets that we actually had time to stay at a place and enjoy. We also got to visit the local market for snacks, and it was kind of cool to see how we can kind of guess what the product is based on the name. We started off the next morning by visiting Troy, and it was really awesome to learn about the different layers and the significance of all the different versions of Troy.
Also needs one more thing. You need fresh water.
Some of the places like Troy are really awesome to be physically in the space, but the grandness doesn't really show up in pictures or even video. Then you have places like Asclepion of Pergamon. Everywhere you turn here is another stunning place to take pictures. This is where patients would come for healing. There's a sacred spring, a healing temple, beautiful pillars, and a beautiful theater. And this was the first theater that we got to see on this trip. The next day we went to Ephesus, and this is another example of a place that I feel like I failed to capture on video correctly because it is so vast. It's ginormous when you're up in front of it, and you can't really get super good footage because you're tiny compared to it, and there's just so many people around. So one day I hope to be able to go back to Ephesus and have a little bit more time to enjoy the sights. The Ephesus Archaeological Museum was awesome to check out as well. There's a couple statues of Artemis that you can see here, and they don't rope off the statues, so you can actually get close enough to touch, although I wouldn't recommend. These are some dresses at local dress shops that I tried on that I really wanted to bring back but didn't have that much room in my suitcase. From Izmir, which is where we were staying to visit Ephesus, we made our way to Pamukkale. We paid a local person to take us up to see the theater because we had limited time and it would be a mega long hike, and we got to look at the travertines. We did not pay for entrance to Cleopatra's Pool, so we don't have eternal beauty and youth, but we didn't really want to strip in front of random tourists and didn't have that much time. We have traveled by bus for 11 hours or something. This is a shower. There's actually a tub. First tub we've seen. with a non-overhead shower, naked people, instrument people, another curtain, a weird curtain, lots of hangers, whoops, I turned all the lights off. No overhead lights. I guess this is how lit it is. Biggest room we've had so far. Safe, fridge, TV, day bed. Oh, I guess this could sleep another person.
Yeah.
Welcome to Antalya. At this point, we're a little bit over a week into the trip. Antalya was one of the places where I think we had a little bit more room for exploration on our own. So you'll see that we started our day visiting the archaeological museum, and then we did some fun things with our friends. Is it like day 6 or 7 or something?
7 maybe? I don't remember.
Everyday tour group, every day exhausted, everyone.
No water.
No water, no food, no time to poo. Help. I need baby care. We visited another theater, and this one is really well known. I want to say it's pronounced Aspendos, but I'm not sure. And at this point, we were running out of steam. I think the cumulative days of long days of walking and being on the bus were starting to catch up to us. You're hungry?
Hungry and tired.
Once again, we visited a place filled with awesome statues, and some of these were huge. A lot of these statues were in amazing condition and close enough to put filters on, so I did.
Hey!
yeah.
Hey! Woo! Hey! It's okay. 9!
Oh.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
Oh.
9. Ice cream. It's good. It's okay.
That looks like a shoulder workout.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Oh.
Hey, 9. It's okay. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Okay. Okay, bye.
It's okay.
Yay. Okay. Okay, good.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Okay.
Although the history lessons and seeing all the sites organized by a group is it's a good way to get a lot of things in a short period of time while you're visiting a new country, especially if you're not familiar with the language at all, don't know any locals. We did have a lot of fun doing our self-tours. This is what the view for a lot of the trip looked like because we spent so much time on the road. You can fly around Turkey and make your travels go a little bit more efficiently, but there are lots of things you can see along the way by bus only. I know I haven't mentioned food very much so far, but the food there is amazing. I am not a foodie, but the food in Turkey was so good. There was lots of protein, lots of produce, lots of fiber. Flavors were awesome, and since coming back here, I have gone to local grocery stores and paid special attention to Turkish products like dried fruit, the figs, just anything I find that reminds me of Turkey, I buy here because the chocolate there was good, the cheese didn't cause me to have any bowel distress. Everything was just so good there. While I was talking about food, that was footage from the caravanserai we stopped at, and that's one of the things you can do if you're traveling on the road versus flying. That was an abandoned city and shelter, and it's been transformed into a carpet shop, but there's lots of these on the Silk Road, so you'll see these awesome structures just along the way. Cappadocia, one of the last places that we were visiting before we returned back to Istanbul, and this was the Whirling Dervishes performance. So we started off our time here by watching this ritual. It is a counterclockwise spin, and it's a ritual to bring them closer to God. We were not allowed to film or video in the beginning, which I think is maybe their actual ritual, and then towards the end they did allow us just to record this part. The next morning we were up bright and early, and I mean bright and early like 4 a.m., like obscene hours. So even with the jet lag, because we had been having such long days, getting up at 4 after basically getting to hotels late the night before, it was a feat. But you know, when you want to hot air balloon, you get up and you do this, because the hot air balloons only take off during sunrise. I think that's when the weather conditions permit. So they all go up around the same time. There are many different balloons with different logos. I kind of think there's just like a few major companies that run the balloons in the region. They do have to go according to weather. So there's a weather report the night before to let the people in the area know if the balloons are probably going up the next day. And then I think in the morning they confirm and clear with the aviation people just to make sure everyone is good to go. And once they have permission to take off, it's like not until the very last moment when I think everyone is clear to go. Like I think you're already setting the balloon up, you're already planning on going up, and then you get the okay, and then everyone can take off. This is an experience that I didn't really have on my bucket list, because I haven't really been super called to go up in a hot air balloon. Again, I feel like this trip for me was the theme is, I didn't really know I wanted to do all these things until I did the things, and then I'm like, wow, that was amazing. I'm so glad I did it. And that's how I feel about this whole trip. The flight time was about an hour. It was really, really cold. And we are in a basket with, I think like a group of 20 or so people. And the basket has little dividers that you can fit like 2 or 3 people per divider spot. And I think that's so when the balloon lands, if there weren't dividers, people might just all get mashed together depending on which direction the balloon lands. Because when it does the landing, the truck that's associated with the balloon will follow the balloon, and they'll try to coordinate the landing so that the basket lands on the truck. And so people exit the balloon by climbing out of the basket, but you might be like facing 90 degrees from standing. Like you kind of lean back, and it is kind of it's a weird process. You kind of like squat and hold on to these handles, and you brace for not the impact, but the landing. And we got to watch the sunrise, because the balloons take off a little bit before sunrise. You get to watch the sun come up, you get to see other balloons. Depending on which way you're facing, you might get more balloons in that direction or not, because as you learn while you're on this flight, they have no way of steering. So you're in this balloon, and you just kind of hope that when it lands somewhere it can land, and there's something that can catch it. And they also teach us how to stand while we're in the balloon and give us the safety info kind of like after it's too late to change anything, which I thought was really funny. Like, here's the instructions, also it's too late, you're already going. Following the balloon ride, we went to Pigeon Valley. We got to look at lots of rock formations and the fairy chimneys, the Three Graces, and it was just an amazing glimpse into the beauty that is Goreme. I do think this trip would have been closer to perfect if we had just had one more full day in Cappadocia. There's lots of hikes to do there, and the time of day that we were at certain locations made it kind of hard to get good pictures or really enjoy the place because it was like peak sunlight, it was really hot, I was wilting, and I think if we just had one more day where we could enjoy it before it got too hot and also maybe watch the sunset, that would have been perfect. So definitely a place that I want to go back to. We got to sit down a little bit for lunch and then do some more exploration. I tried to get some souvenirs, but for some reason everything I wanted was 2,000 Turkish lira. I went to different vendors and I think they took a look at me and could tell I was a tourist and I was into axes and locks. I did recently see similar objects in the US and they're actually many more times 2,000 Turkish lira, so I think that was actually a good deal. But all I have are these pictures for a souvenir.
Aquí, Disneyland ride. 1, 2, 3. I think we are the last one.
You may be wondering why I am showing hot air balloon footage again. So this was the next day, and this is footage that my mom took because she came along with me to do a photo shoot. This is something that I planned out on my own. I found this photographer online a little bit before the trip because I knew I wanted to do something like this while I was here. And my mom came along because I wanted her to come make sure I was safe because I was kind of leaving the hotel with people that I kind of reached out to online that I didn't have any mutual connections with. And she got to see the hot air balloons once again from the ground. And it's beautiful looking up and looking down. This photographer, I went with her because she could communicate with me through text in English, so we were able to figure out a meeting time and a meeting location. They picked us up and I rented this dress because I wanted the flying dress experience and I really wanted to have the hot air balloons in the background. And because of the way the tour was structured, I didn't know until literally the day before the shoot happened what my availability would be because we had been leaving to go to the next location so early in the morning. And because of my female issues, if you guys have been around since the Drip Diaries, somehow I get my period every meet. Like every meet that I do, it happens to be one of my drip days. So the odds are 1 in 4 because I don't have anything that regulates my cycle like oral contraceptives. I will 25% of the time be suffering from the potential of period migraines. And so I was starting to get a migraine during the shoot, I think because we had been not sleeping that much, jet lag, travel was like a little bit rough just because of all the things that I had to do leading up to it. Like I just wasn't really rested, and I think that was one of the factors. So I was just kind of worried that I would start to feel kind of progressively bad during the shoot, but you know, we were able to get all these shots in an hour, and I really wish I could have stayed longer because the sun was just starting to come up and there was a little bit more lighting, and I wanted pictures that were a little bit brighter, but I'm just really happy with what we were able to do with the time that we had because I mean, I was so lucky that the balloons went up 2 days in a row because as the winter season starts, I think there's more days where the balloon flights get canceled due to wind or rain. And, you know, being able to find a photographer that I could communicate with and was willing to work with my tight time schedule, I'm already so grateful. And having my mom come made it really fun because she was able to see these special effects and also watch the balloons, and we got a couple pictures together, and yeah, it was just such a blast. This photographer and I are the exact same age, which I thought was kind of cool because we're on opposite sides of the globe and we kind of can communicate through some words, but she would give me cues and her assistant would have to repeat them for me louder because it was hard for me to hear with the accent and the language barrier, and then also the balloon hot air noises in the background. I used this trip to let my body rest from heavy lifting, which I at most do once a year, and I did light hotel workouts. I would do an upper body day, lower body day, upper, lower, and just alternate depending on what kind of equipment each hotel had. I got pretty lucky that basically anytime I wanted to train, there was something I could use, even if it was just dumbbells. Although we did not have the time to try real Turkish coffee or a real Turkish bath, we did get to use the saunas, and pretty much every single hotel had a sauna. Some of them were nicer than others, but it was so awesome to be able to walk for a long day, be mega tired, and then unwind in the sauna. And I got so lucky that I just happened to visit a place that has a huge bathhouse and sauna culture. After a week and a half, we made it to Ankara, which is the capital of Turkey. We visited the mausoleum, as well as the Anatolian Civilizations Museum, which we were told was a must-see. Upon our return to Istanbul, we arrived in the afternoon and we went on a cruise of the Bosporus and visited the Grand Bazaar. We had heard so much about the Bosporus, which separates Asian Turkey from European Turkey, since the start of the trip, and we were able to look at some of the landmarks that we had driven past or visited while we were on the strait. The Grand Bazaar is a great place to get souvenirs before you head home. If this were a travel tour vlog channel, I would give you a in-depth explanation of what's good to buy and what are good prices. However, this is not. So if you do have questions, you can comment below and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you so much for watching and allowing me to share this awesome trip with you.